same A and B, same distance, same channel, and same type of noise. Suppose you are sending a digital signal like this, it might get distorted to a certain extent like this. But still, there are techniques to recover this signal. That's why the noise immunity of digital signal is much better than analog communication. Even assuming that, uh, let us say this is bit 1, 0, and 1, this is what you're transmitting, and it so happens due to some reason that it becomes 1, 0, 0. There are techniques by which we can detect this error and correct it. First one was noise immunity. In addition to noise immunity, even if an error occurs, there are methods by which we can detect this error and correct it. Third is compatibility with time division multiplexing. So by its nature itself, this digital communication, time division multiplexing is nothing but you are going to send information in different time slots. So by its nature itself, digital communication is like that. So it's much easier to do time division multiplexing. Let us take the case of cockpit voice recorder, what we saw in the previous semester. If there are 6 mics, okay, 1, 2, 6 mics in a cockpit, and you want to store this data, all you have to do is in a memory location, what we saw in embedded systems. So you just allot some memory location 1 to 10 for mic 1, then 11 to 20. I'm just giving some numbers for mic 2, and so on and so forth. So you're using the same memory, but storing 6 different information. Whereas if you had an analog system, you require 6 different tapes to record the same information. So it is quite, in that sense, it's quite compatible with time division multiplexing. And that's why you see all this fiber optic communication and all has become so popular. It does come with some disadvantage. First is bandwidth. You require large bandwidth compared to analog communication. But if you are talking about optical fiber communication, this is no longer an issue. You have very large bandwidth. Second is, those days, these circuits were quite complex compared to analog circuits. But nowadays, it's not a big disadvantage at all, because digital circuits are in fact much cheaper than analog circuits. So these are the basic disadvantages of digital communication. And mostly, other than aviation, it's all digital communication nowadays. But you will find some very small applications like a garage door opener or something, remote control or something like that, that's still having some analog communication. Okay. Now, when you talk about digital communication, you can basically we are sending some information from A to B. There is an information flow. It can be in this direction or the reverse direction or both happening together. Either way, there are two methods by which we can send this information. First is you transmit all this information together. So that is called parallel transfer. Or suppose it's a, okay, first of all, we have this bit. Bit is nothing but it can take two values, 0 or 1. Amplitude wise, it can be anything. Okay. This 0 can be represented as minus 5 volts, and 1 can be represented as plus 5 volts. Or you can have some coding scheme in which 0 is 0 volts and 1 is 5 volts. It is just the number representation can be anything, but physically it's going to be any of these coding schemes. So these are voltages, these are just binary numbers. How you represent the binary numbers in terms of voltage is up to you. But there are some standards worldwide and they follow it. Now, a number of bits constitute the word. So generally, 8 bits are taken at a time and that becomes a byte. So word can be 8 bit long, it can be 16 bits, 32 bits and so on and so forth. But it's up to you how you are defining it. Uh, Generally it is 8 bits or 1 byte. So information whenever we talk about is in bytes per second. So that's how you quantify it. Though if you go into the hardware side, you'll be talking about something called as bits per second. How many bits you can transmit in 1 second. And there is another representation called baud, B-A-U-D, which we will see subsequently. So bits per second and bauds per second is what you will find out in the hardware side of it. So whenever you are connecting your laptop to some other remote device and you want to check the uh, speed of connectivity, it will either be in bits per second or bauds per second. And the difference we will see later. Okay. Now this information can go all together. Now suppose let us say we are talking about 1 byte. So all 8 bits can go simultaneously or you can send it as 1 bit at a time. So bit by bit you are sending it. So accordingly it's called parallel transfer or serial transfer. Parallel transfer is very fast because you're not wasting time. So the complete data word is transferred. Data word now becomes 8 bits transferred simultaneously. But if you're going to, which means you require 8 channels of communication. If you're talking about an aircraft communicating with the ground control, there is no way you're going to have 8 channels. So in that case, you're going to, it becomes impractical. So long distance communication, you can't use parallel data transmission. And nowadays, even within a PCB, suppose you are having a PCB, PCB is printed circuit board, which people must have seen, and there are a number of integrated circuits. Even communication between them has become serial transfer because they don't want to run more copper wires. More copper wires means you require a larger PCB. So they have gone in for serial communication even between integrated circuits. Those days it wasn't like that. It always used to be IC to IC used to be parallel communication. But in spite of that, few systems will be there where you want really fast transfer, then you go for this parallel transfer. So as the block diagram is showing, this is the source. You have a destination. You have a bus. Bus I told you is nothing but a bunch of wires. So you can transfer the data simultaneously. In this, you will have something called as most significant bit and least significant bit. So if there are 8 bits, first one which is coming out is the MSB and then the last one becomes LSB. If you see the time axis, what it means is the LSB is going to come first, this time, and the MSB will be the last one to come. And you assign a particular time duration for each bit, and that is called bit time. See, bit has two things you have to define. One is level, second is what is the time interval. So that's how you define the a bit, how you are going to represent a bit. So when you talk about serial transfer, let us say you are starting at time 0. You want to start the transmission after some time, and then the first one to go out will be the LSB, and the last one which will go out is the MSB. There might be systems in which they will reverse it also, but whoever is doing the protocol, he has to be very clear about what system he is following. Because this MSB, what I mean by MSB is, suppose I want to represent a data like this. Just for your information, 4 bits is called a nibble. Okay, 2 nibbles make 1 byte. So this one becomes the MSB, and this one becomes the LSB, least significant bit. Yeah, I had a problem. Okay. Sarup, can you now see the slide?
Not yet, sir.
It's okay. Now we can get it.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. I think there's some problem. I got disconnected. I was talking about a byte being represented like in 2 4-bit numbers, and that's called nibble. And the most significant bit is the, you can say, the leftmost bit. Okay? And the rightmost bit becomes the least significant bit. And when you are transferring the data, the least significant bit is transferred first, followed by the next one, and so on and so forth, till the time you reach the most significant bit. Because you are transferring it bit by bit, naturally, the speed of transmission is going to be low, and you have to live with it. Okay, there's nothing else you can do. Compared to parallel transfer, definitely the speed of transmission is going to be low. Okay, yeah, this is given in your book, but I'll just briefly tell you how the complete thing takes place. Uh, See, data is going to be available in form of parallel form only because that's the physical data. Okay, so you are storing it in some memory register. You just take it as memory. Okay, it's all 8 bits. Memory is in all 8. See, though I'd say location 1, 2, 3, and all. And counting this thing, embedded systems, we talked about memory locations. Each location will have 8 bits. Okay, that's how the memory is organized. Uh, so information is available in parallel form. So you have to convert it into a serial form. So this is how you do it: parallel to serial. So all data gets loaded into something called as shift register. Now you have a physical link between the transmitter and receiver. At time 0, you transfer the first one, the least significant bit. So if you look at this 0, it has come into this first location. Then second time slot, you transfer the second one. But automatically this 0 has to move to the second slot. So you keep doing it. Finally, the most significant bit, which was here, this gets transferred and it goes. So you retrieve back the data in this method. So LSB has come out first and MSB comes out the last. So that's how you transfer data from one point to another using serial communication. Anything you want to ask me? Something which is not clear? Yeah. It's open to the class. If you're unable to follow or you want me to repeat it. Is it all right, Sarup, up to this?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So, in digital communication, these are the things we are going to cover. Initially, I'll talk about some digital codes, then some basic principles of digital transmission. There are issues. I talked about. Uh, okay, error detection correction will come last, but we'll see how, some methods by which we can do this transmission and how efficient we can do it. You are all used to this word nowadays. It's very quite often you use this word modem. So how this modem works. Then we'll be talking about something which is very strange. Uh, I used to say that bandwidth should be low, but in this sort of communication, we'll actually increase the bandwidth. So that's why it's called wide band modulation. Bandwidth, I told you, is after all a resource which is very costly. But against intuition, this particular method will intentionally increase the bandwidth. Okay, so we'll talk about that. Basic error detection and correction techniques. That will be the last topic. So these are things that will be covered under digital communication. The initial method for transferring data was something called as Morse code. So this is what was used by Marconi initially when he tried to transmit radio signals. Uh, you people wouldn't have even heard about something called as telegraph. Maybe in very old movies, you might come across this, like some unfortunate incident has happened. Uh, the family will receive a telegram. Okay. So all those things are gone now. I think last 10, 15 years even there's close to complete section of this telegraphic sections. So these codes are nothing but, like, suppose I want to represent A. It was represented as one dot means press. You press the key. It is like a spring-loaded key. Okay, this whole thing is like a spring-loaded key where you can press it and release it. So you you can close the key or you can release the key. So if you want to represent A, they used to press it for some time, then leave it open for some time. So likewise, all alphanumeric characters used to be sent. On the other end, the receiving end, that fellow will be having a headset, okay, and listening to this transmission. And then they were really skilled people those days. Uh, they used to so fast they used to write the codes also. But nowadays, I think it's all gone. Those skills and all are gone, and even if you send Morse code, it will be done automatically. So now we have different better codes, and the most popular being this ASCII code, which all your keyboards and all they use. American Standard Code for Information Exchange, Interchange. It can represent 128 numbers, letters, punctuation marks, and all the stuff, and other symbols. So all keyboards they use this ASCII uh, representation. So whenever you press a key on your laptop, what goes into the computer will be an ASCII code. So if you say, I want to transmit your pressed uh, M, shift M, okay, you want the capital M to go, what goes out will be something like this. So you have this, uh, it's a standard thing, and the receiver will recognize it as letter M, capital M. But it goes as a serial communication. So all these things you really don't program. Okay, it's all simple, very cheap integrated circuits are available, which will take connection from all keys and then convert it into this code and transmit it to the computer. Anything you want to ask me about the codes? So you have Morse code, this ASCII code, like that. Few more codes are there. Most popular being ASCII code.
Sir, ASCII is 7-bit.
Yes, 7-bit.
But here it's 8-bit.
I think, uh, yeah, I think there's a mistake in the textbook. Probably I'll have to see what is written over there. It has to be 7-bit code, or he must be sending it with some. We'll talk about something called as parity bit. Probably he's sending that. I'll have to see the text. I'll just check it out. Okay. Now I told you that when it represent a bit, it's level and the bit time. So when you know the bit time, it's very clear how many bits you can send per second. Suppose uh, you have 8 seconds to send your data. So each bit is going to take 1 second. Okay. So it becomes 1 bit per second. If your total time slot is 8 seconds is given to you, send 8 bits, naturally it becomes 1 bit per second. Uh, Now there is another way of representing it, it's called the baud rate. So whenever you are, those of you who have used Arduino, you will be interfacing Arduino with the monitor, with your own monitor. There if you see the selection of the speed, that will be mentioned in terms of baud rate. So there is a difference between baud rate and bit rate. Baud rate is the number of signaling elements or symbols that can occur in a given unit of time. So a signaling element is nothing but some change in the binary signal transmitter. It might look very complicated. I'll just show you the next slide, then probably it can be easier. Okay. I told you that bit can have two voltage levels. Okay. So this is the normal method of transmission where you have two levels or two states. So it can be in two states, either 0 or 1. So you take, you know this is given by this log 2 by n number of states. So log base 2 to 2 is nothing but 1. So bit rate is equal to 1 megabit per second in this case because it is 1 microsecond, okay, 10 power minus 6. Now this was the earlier form of transmitting binary information. Then they came out with another method called as why should we restrict ourselves to just two states? They said, oh, let's go for 4 states. The advantage is each bit time can represent 2 bits now. Because now if you see this 4 states, it can take 0, 0. I'll represent it as 0. Uh, 0, okay, I'll do it the other way around. Okay. 0 volts, I'll say it is nothing but 0, 0. So I am sending actually 2 bits now. 1 volt corresponds to 0, 1, which is binary 1, right? The binary number, actual number also. Okay. So it just becomes 0, 1. 2 volts is 1, 0. So this is 2. And 3 volts becomes 1, 1. This is 3. So what I'm doing is effectively the bit time remains same. It is same 1 microseconds as the previous one. But within 1 microseconds, I am able to send 2 bits of information. And to represent 2 bits of information, I require 4 states. So you apply this formula, then you get, now your bit rate has actually become 2 megabits per second, though the baud rate is same. Okay, baud rate change is same, whereas within this 1 bit time, you are able to send more than 1 bit. Okay, the same 1 microsecond, you are sending 2 bits. So likewise, this is 4 states. So you can have 16 states, 32 states. So these are all standards. Nowadays, they are all very common. Okay, up to 32 states and 64 and 128. Up to 128 levels also people can send it. That's how the serial transmission actually became really fast because now we are using multiple levels. Uh, just open to the class. Other than suppose I am sending this bit in a form of sine wave. Okay. Let us say 1 corresponds to a presence of sine wave and 0 corresponds, I think no, we will do it not now. This will create problems. We will get confused. This same symbols for second again I will come back once I talk about transmission methods. In that, it's just not amplitude which can be changed. Okay, I'll rephrase my question in that case. Let's assume that we are sending us sine wave. One method is I can send different amplitudes. What else can I change in a sine wave? Keeping the frequency constant. Okay, I'll repeat the question. Now this bit rate and baud rate, we have just seen how if we can use multiple levels, we can increase the bit rate. And baud rate is just change in symbols. So symbol here, the symbol is nothing but levels. It's just levels. It's changing from one level to another. Uh, Assuming that this digital signal can be converted to a sine wave, other than amplitude, what else I can change in a sine wave? Sarup, are you getting the question?
No, sir.
Okay, let's say, forget about digital transmission and all that stuff. You are having a sine wave, okay? Uh, One way of sending this information is multiple levels. So I can change the amplitude of a sine wave.
Changing the frequency, sir.
Even I want to keep the frequency constant. Yeah, that is one way we'll do it. That's for more of representing 1 or 0. That we'll talk about frequency shift keying. Anything else I can change in the sine wave? So when I talk about even this frequency shift key, it's nothing but logic 1 corresponds to X frequency, logic 0 corresponds to Y frequency. In that way, what you're telling is correct. But still I want to improve the bit rate. One way is I can always have the amplitude of the sine wave at 4 different levels. 4 or 62, whatever is the thing, 64. What if I keep the frequency constant, what else can I change other than the amplitude? Okay, let me see. I'll represent my sine wave as this vector, okay, amplitude in polar coordinates. So what else I can do? So this method says that I can keep changing the amplitude, okay. So I can have different amplitudes. But now I keep the amplitude constant, but still I want to do the same change.
A change in phase, sir.
Good, very good, very good. You can change the phase. Okay. So it's nothing but you can transmit like this. So each signal now corresponds to one out of four states. So now you draw the vector like this. Amplitude is same, whereas the phase has changed. So it's just not only levels, we can even change the phase. And we can have a combination of amplitude and phase also. Probably later classes we'll see some examples of that. Okay, Sanjay, now let's talk about simple, forget about baud rate and all, simple binary transmission. What do you think is the disadvantage of this sort of, now we'll call it asynchronous transmission?
So can you repeat the question?
See, we have, okay, a source A and a receiver B. I want to transmit 8-bit data serially. I have just one wire going here. So, what do you think is the disadvantage? And let us say you are having a memory block of 1 MB. This is the memory block, and each one has 8 bits. Okay, so one by one location, I'll take it, put it into some box called serial to parallel to serial converter. So I'll put this information will go to parallel to serial converter, and then it goes into the channel. But it's going to be 8 bits at a time, and B has to receive it and convert it back to same. We'll dump it into some memory with same 1 MB of capacity. So what do you think is the disadvantage of this scheme? Or what problems do you anticipate? And assuming that channel is not noisy, okay, we are having ideal channel.
So time consume.
Time consuming, yeah, definitely, compared to parallel. Anything else you can foresee?
So it's similar to on-off gain. There will be confusion. So
Confusion in what sense? Yeah, there is going to be confusion, hell a lot of confusion. Okay, but what starts the confusion? And we assume that in 8 bits the LSB goes first, okay, and MSB is transmitted last. And A is telling B that I am going to transmit 1 byte, one by one, in bytes I am going to transfer. So it's going to be first 8 bits like that, a block of 8 bits. Open to the class, okay, anyone can answer.
So system will be at some particular voltage first. So there should be a change in voltage to recognize that the transmission has started.
Good. So you should know when actually the transmission, B should know when the transmission has started. Okay. So similarly, B should also know when to be sure there's no error, B should also know that it has stopped. So now you're having a situation in which uh, you have to add one start bit as well as a stop bit. So what you do is initially you hold the line high. High is mark in communication thing. They call it as high mark. Sorry, high voltage. The channel is held at high voltage. Whenever you want to start the transmission, you briefly bring it down to 0. Receiver meanwhile is just connected to it, to this line. So it is also it's sensing 1. First time it goes to 0, it knows that the transmission is going to start after 1 bit time. It waits for 1 bit time. Then after that, the first one which is coming out is going to be the LSB of the, now in this case, ASCII code. Then all these things come up and then MSB comes out. The 7th bit. So 7th bit is transmitted last. This is time. Okay. Now you want to be doubly sure that this whole thing is over. Generally, they will send 2 stop bits. Nowadays, that's the standard. Instead of just 1 stop bit, you're going to send 2 stop bits, but this stop bits will be 2, 1. And then it can go high or low, it doesn't matter. Because this fellow anyway, receiver is having a counter which keeps count of 7 bits. And then it's just waiting for 2 stop bits to come one after another, and then it will accept it as a valid data. And then the channel goes high, and it's up to you when you want to send the next byte. So that's how it becomes asynchronous. It's not that both are having the same clock or they're timed equally. So you just do it without any synchronization. So what is the disadvantage now?
More bits are sent.
Yeah. For every say byte, you have to add 3 more bits. So as such, serial communication is slower, and over and above, you are adding 3 more bits for each byte. So if you are transmitting megabytes of data, you can see how much time gets wasted because of this scheme.
Sir, if there's a counter, then why there are stop added?
No, you just want to be doubly sure. No? That's all.
So, but anyway, it can't accept more than 7 bit.
And it just like aviation, no, you don't depend just on one particular thing. You just want to make sure every time that there should not be any error. Of course, this you can always tell me that. So what happens if let us say the LSB is 1 or this 1, 2, 3, third bit is supposed to be 1, but due to noise it becomes 0. One is then there are methods of coming out of this problem also. Probably see it can so happen that the channel gets disconnected and you get all zeros. Okay, and if you are not having this stop bit, the system will take the data as 0, 1, 0 followed by all zeros, right? You don't want such a situation to happen. You want to wait for these 2 confirmation that this frame has ended, then you accept this data as a valid data. Getting it, Suru? Of course, these are all very rare occurrences, but no one wants to take chance. Okay, so this asynchronous transmission is in that way a bit it's not that efficient. But hardware-wise, it's very simple to implement nowadays. So you will find this asynchronous transmission quite often. Other method is suppose you want bulk transfer. There is something called as synchronous transmission. This is slightly more complicated. Here, what you do is you have say A is transmitting and B is receiving. A is going to have some timer or clock, and B also has some clock. Using some methods, which is a bit complicated, what you do is you synchronize these clocks, these 2 clocks. then it becomes much easier to transfer large amounts of data. So this happens like from your hard disk, you want to transfer data. There and all you go for this synchronous transmission of its type of serial communication. Only thing is the implementation part of it is quite complicated. But general telemetry and all in aviation is just asynchronous communication. It's only for this bulk transfer you use this synchronous transmission. Okay, I think with that I'll end today's class. Anything you want to ask me? So tomorrow is, we don't have a class, so it means Monday we'll be having our next class, right, Sarup?
Yes, sir.
So Monday we'll have a quiz. Okay, up to analog modulation, as this thing, amplitude modulation. Sorry. Is it okay? Huh?
Yes.
And go through the book. It will be an objective sort of quiz only. Okay, okay. See you here.
Hello,
Monday.
sir.
Yeah.
Excuse me, sir.
Yes, yeah.
I have a doubt in radio propagation.
Okay, tell me. Yes.
We learned about LOS, skywave, and ground wave communication, no, sir. So, on what basis did we actually decide the frequencies for each of the type of communication?
Okay. See, depending on it's the other way around. Depending on the frequency, the more propagation is more efficient. Like let us say up to 500 kilohertz, the ground wave is can take place. It's a property, okay, of the propagation. Up to 30 megahertz, you can have sky wave. More than that, if you say, if you are planning to transmit sky wave at more than